can see back there, I will be talking about the first two parts, or two episodes, they call them parts, of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which dropped on Disney Plus a day early. Today, the 26th of May. They're supposed to come out on the 27th. And I wanted to talk about them a bit. As with all things on this channel, when I review TV, movies, etc., this is not a spoiler-free review. I will be talking about spoilers. This is going to be a pure stream of consciousness type review. While the TV just went black. There you go. Good thing I got those few moments of the screen. So, Obi-Wan Kenobi. As you guys know, maybe you know. Wow, it's actually raining pretty good outside. That might be good for ASMR purposes. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Obviously, I have a battle-ready, film prop quality lightsaber in my hand that I have used to make Star Wars short films. And this is not my only lightsaber. So, when they announced this series, which is something that I and tons of other Star Wars fans have been wanting for years, maybe over a decade, I was ecstatic. And then they announced they were bringing back Hayden Christensen, and yeah, it was just at that point, it was just a must-see. And, The Mandalorian has been great. Don't get me started on the sequel trilogy, episode 7, 8, and 9, but whatever, the Disney Plus stuff has mostly been good. I have not seen Book of Boba Fett. Personally, I don't really have an interest in watching it. But yeah, I was very interested in this series. And I just watched the first two episodes, so let's talk about it. I took some notes on my phone, so I want to go through my notes now and kind of go over the talking points that I came to while watching these first two episodes. Like I said, this review is going to have spoilers in it, so if you haven't seen it yet, or if you just don't care, if you have seen it already, or you just don't care, continue watching. If you have not seen it yet and just want to know what I think, I like it, I would recommend you watching it, and after you've watched it, come back here and see the review. Alright, so I'm going to start with my episode 1 thoughts, Kenobi episode 1, as you can see there at the top of that page. So my first note was the intense intro with Order 66. I wasn't sure how they were going to pull off the intro to this show. I wasn't sure how they were going to start it, but I think they started it in a fantastic way. You see the younglings training, and then all of a sudden the Jedi Temple's getting attacked, and in a pretty intense sequence, the Jedi Knights or trainers come in and grab the younglings and run out with their lightsabers, and immediately you get some lightsaber combat. And one thing I noticed in this series, and then I also noticed it in the episodes 7, 8, and 9, and in The Mandalorian as well, because they have lightsabers in that, is that a physical lightsaber like this, with a high quality blade that can actually can clash and fight with things, but that also emits an actual light makes a huge difference in the quality of how the lightsaber looks on screen. Because in that introductory sequence, when they were having the lightsaber battle, you could tell they were using lightsabers such as this one, with a glowing LED core. And what that does is it allows that light to naturally interact with the environment. As you can see, like, if I hold this here, you know, you're getting the glow. You have some of it on my nose, on my face, on my shirt, and as I move it, with how the light interacts both with my body, but then the reflection behind me off that poster and everything like that. In the original trilogy, obviously they didn't have that because of the limited technology at the time. And then when they did the prequel trilogy, all of the blades were CGI only, so they could try to replicate the lighting in post-production, but it just wasn't that good, and you could tell that there wasn't a physical object casting a light in that scene. But in this show, and in the sequel trilogy, and in The Mandalorian, they're using these, and it makes a big difference, and it makes the show look way better. It makes the lightsaber fights look so much nicer. Okay, so that's my thought on that, and I loved the way they used it, these sort of lightsaber props, in the opening Order 66 scene of this show. I thought that the Grand Inquisitor was extremely intimidating, the way that he was talking to the locals in Tatooine, and it kind of gave me Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds vibes, like that opening scene where he's trying to find the Jewish family in the floorboards. Like, that's kind of the vibe I got from him. And then we got Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's working at like some sort of mining thing, it looked like, or moisture farming perhaps. But the one thing that I have to give Disney credit for, you know, you can criticize them all you want for the sequel trilogy, whatever, but one thing they did right in the sequel trilogy, specifically in The Force Awakens, and then they also got it in The Mandalorian, and now this, is that the Outer Rim, specifically Tatooine, although I guess in The Force Awakens it was that other planet, but whatever, those dusty planets feel very dusty and dirty and grimy. You know, even though I'm sure there's a lot of CGI going on and, you know, green screen or blue screen, or actually I think they used that like digital screen set for this, but regardless, it feels very real and dusty and dirty, and they really nail the vibe of those sorts of places in this show. Then Obi-Wan has this interaction with Tika the Jawa, who's like selling him scrap and is like selling him the control board to his own like moisture collector thing, which was cute. I also thought it was interesting the way, and we kind of see this a bit more in episode 2, but the way that they're playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in this is they're having him be like the Jedi who is disillusioned with the idea of being a Jedi, and he's kind of disconnected from the Force. He doesn't want to be a Jedi anymore, and it kind of reminds me of what they were trying to do with Luke Skywalker in episode 8. And so far, at least through these first 2 episodes, I think they've pulled it off better than they did with Luke Skywalker. Especially because I feel like Obi-Wan has a more legitimate reason to be a little disillusioned than Luke Skywalker did. Then one thing I wasn't expecting, because it wasn't really advertised, was we go into a young Leia Organa storyline. Because obviously she's young at this point, and this is something I wasn't expecting them to go this way with the show, but it's actually a pleasant surprise when I first realized that's what we were getting into, I was a little bit like, how is this gonna go? Are they gonna pull this off correctly? But I have to give them credit. I think the idea to make this show about a young Leia Organa and Obi-Wan Kenobi interaction is actually a pretty interesting way to go with this. Because obviously he can't have too many close encounters with Luke based on what we know about their relationship in the original trilogy. I also think in the original trilogy, it didn't really feel like Leia had as much character development, especially not as much as Luke. And to follow more of a young Leia through this and kind of get to see how she became who she becomes in episodes 4 and 5 and 6, I think is a really, really interesting idea. And you even saw a bit of it in this. You saw Leia interacting with her cousin, who was like very kind of snobbish and rude, whereas Leia's more compassionate, even having compassion towards the droid, her friendly droid companion who gets killed, unfortunately. Then the third sister. The third sister, it seems that she has some sort of personal connection or vendetta against Obi-Wan. And the third sister in general is a really interesting character. Because I feel like they're almost setting her up as like a main character, kind of, even though she's the chief antagonist, which is really interesting, and I'll touch on her a little bit more in my episode 2 talk, but it seems like they have she has a personal connection or vendetta against Obi-Wan, and I'm really curious to see if they explore why that is. Maybe she's a Jedi who turned evil that was connected to him in some way. Or, I don't know, I haven't watched Rebels or the Clone Wars. I've seen a bit of the Clone Wars, but not enough of it, so I don't know if maybe there's some connection that's stemming from the cartoons. In that case, I wouldn't know, but you let me know. One thing I did not like about this episode, and if you watch the episode, this might have stood out to you too, is that forest chase. When those bounty hunters were chasing after Leia through the forest, it was pretty goofy. It was a little bit like slapstick almost, but the music and the direction of the scene were trying to make it seem scary. But you had these 3 adults chasing full speed after this little child and unable to catch her. And there's a scene where one of the people chasing her is running, and there's a tree branch this thick even, and they run and hit their head against the tree branch and fall down, and they're tripping over rocks and stuff, and it kind of took me out of the show a little bit. I was just really? I don't know if it was meant to be comedic. I don't think it was, but it was a little goofy. The forest chase scene, it was a little rough. That scene was bad, but whatever. Leia gets captured, and then we set up a really interesting storyline for the rest of the series that leads into episode 2, which is where Leia is being used as bait by the Inquisitors, but really just the third sister, who is going behind the rest of the Inquisitors' backs to set this whole thing up to get Obi-Wan Kenobi. So the third sister purposefully hires these bounty hunters to kidnap Leia to draw out Obi-Wan to come save Leia. And I think that works for a few interesting reasons. First of all, in A New Hope, Leia sends the message, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." And And so we kind of will understand why she has that connection to Obi-Wan and why she reached out to him of all people in episode 4, because she has been saved by him in the past, perhaps. I started thinking about that. I'm like, that does make sense, because Leia specifically asked Obi-Wan for help, and now we are seeing what Obi-Wan did to earn that trust from her. Very interesting. Also, there's this line in the opening when they're going after the Jedi at that bar on Tatooine, where they said something like, the key to hunting a Jedi is patience. They will reveal themselves. They can't help who they are. And that's kind of setting up Obi-Wan going out to find Leia, because he can't help who he is. He has to go be the good guy. So that, like you said, the trap, and the Jedi is going to walk right into the trap. I thought that was interesting. Also, from episode 1, the Jedi who escapes the bar on Tatooine, he goes and asks Obi-Wan for help. Obi-Wan denies being a Jedi. After a little bit more conversation, he suggests that the Jedi should go bury his lightsaber somewhere and give it up because the time of the Jedi is over. Later, as Obi-Wan is leaving the planet, that Jedi, his dead body is hanging from like an archway or something. And so I think it kind of is a moment for Obi-Wan to be like, okay, this is what inaction is gonna give me. I might as well die fighting rather than be hung from an archway. But yeah, the Leia being kidnapped thing, it sets up, basically, Taken in space. The Liam Neeson movie, Taken. That's kind of what this show is reminding me of a little bit. And episode 2 especially. So we're into episode 2 now. Kenobi episode 2. This one had big Taken vibes. Also like Blade Runner vibes. We're on this planet, Daiyu, and it almost kind of reminded me of Tokyo, especially Tokyo, how it appears in like cyberpunk or anime things, where there's neon everywhere, bright lights, tall buildings. I love the vibe of Daiyu. You guys know I'm a sucker for cyberpunk vibes, and got them in abundance on Daiyu. Kenobi, he comes across this child who introduces him to a character played by Kumail Nanjiani. I love Kumail Nanjiani. I liked him in Eternals, and he kind of plays a comic relief character in this named Hasha. He's like this criminal people smuggler, basically. He like works to get people off the planet illegally by pretending to be a Jedi, using like magnets and stuff. It was a very funny scene, because you can see Obi-Wan watching him when he's like doing his fake Jedi act, and Obi-Wan looks extremely incredulous. But then one thing that happens in that scene and with his interactions with Hasha is we see this sort of grittier, darker side to Obi-Wan. He's like threatening him with a blaster, and like he's being very kind of harsh and brash, almost like, the time and age is kind of beating him down a little bit. You see it too. He gets captured and uses some trickery to get out of that, and one thing you notice is he has a reluctance to use the Force and his lightsaber. It's like he's cut himself off from the Force, and he's trying so hard not to be a Jedi. He's using hand-to-hand combat and a blaster this whole time. Like, we have not seen Obi-Wan Kenobi use his lightsaber a single time through 2 episodes. Just like 2 hours worth of show. No lightsaber. So interesting. So it's gonna be really special when he finally does pull out that lightsaber. And I feel like it's probably going to be in a confrontation against Darth Vader. And then we get a bit of character development for the third sister, which is interesting. Because again, she's the main antagonist, but they're like building her character out and setting her up. So I don't know if she's maybe gonna have a moment where she becomes a good guy at the end, or it's just setting up some epic confrontation. My personal hope is like we're setting up this big confrontation between her and Obi-Wan, and like they're getting ready to square off, and then Darth Vader just like one-shots her and then fights Obi-Wan himself. I would love that. But the other Inquisitors are kind of talking down to her, and they treat her like an outsider a bit. And you can tell, like, her personal vendetta against Obi-Wan, she's using that to try and gain favor and kind of rise up the ranks in the Inquisitors. And that comes to fruition when she kills the Grand Inquisitor. You know, the main Inquisitor. She just stabs him right through the chest, and puts him down. And she's like, who's in the gutter now? Because he said that she was in the gutter. So yeah, definitely an interesting moment, and I'm interested to see how the other Inquisitors react to that and what happens with her going forward. Maybe she goes rogue a little bit. Very interesting to see it. A couple other things. Flea, the bass player from Red Hot Chili Peppers, he's one of the bad guys, one of the people who kidnapped Leia. I was kind of looking in the first episode, and I was like, is that Flea? But then we get some more moments where you see his face in this, and yeah, wouldn't you know it, that is Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. So that was cool, and he did a good job. He played a very convincing villain, I have to say. I know Flea's done a few acting roles, but I've never really seen him or noticed him in anything, and I think he did a really good job in this, so hey, who knew? Two other things. Towards the end of this episode, Obi-Wan finally uses the Force to save Leia. The interesting thing is that it takes him a minute. Like, he's sitting there with his hand out, and he's like struggling, and it takes him a minute. He's struggling, but then the last moment, as Leia is falling down this tall building towards the ground, right before she hits the ground, he saves her. And it's interesting because Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the Jedi who has the strongest link to the Force. I don't remember, maybe Yoda said it, but he said Obi-Wan Kenobi is basically the perfect Jedi. He has like this almost innate link to the Force that is so strong and natural. But we're seeing that he doesn't have that right now, and clearly at some point it's gonna come back. And then at the end of this episode, so before she kills the Grand Inquisitor, she's taunting Obi-Wan, and she says, Lord Vader wants you, and you see Obi-Wan's face, because he thought Anakin was dead, but now he knows that Darth Vader, is still alive. And you see he's reacting to this, and he's very on edge about it. And the episode ends. Darth Vader in the back of the tank. You just see him there, eyes open, floating in the tank, breathing apparatus in his mouth. And you just slow zoom out, cut to black. And that's the first two episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am very excited to keep watching this series. As I understand it, there are going to be 6 episodes in total. I think they're going to release 1 a week from this point forward. So I will be making a video reviewing the episodes once a week from this point forward. I know I said I was going to do that with Cowboy Bebop, but then Cowboy Bebop ended up being garbage, so I didn't do it. But I will do it with this because I can't really imagine it being garbage. So, how would I compare this? I'm going to compare it to The Mandalorian. I think episode 1 of The Mandalorian was better than episode 1 of Kenobi. But I think episode 2 of Kenobi was better than episode 2 of The Mandalorian. I expect this show to be very high quality and very similar in quality to The Mandalorian. Like I said, I'm very excited to keep watching this show going forward, but thank you so much for watching. In the comments down below, please let me know what you guys have thought of this series so far, if you've watched it. If you agree. I guess I didn't really say many opinions, I just kind of talked about what happened, but whatever. Not much of a review, was it? I just kind of talked about what happened, but I'm really liking the choices so far. I'm excited for it. But anyways, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this every single day. Until next time, guys.